Hello and welcome. My name is Anthony, and this is Fluorescent Learning. Real quick, I come to realize there's a lot of things about classes, so this video will be broken up into more than one part. I'm not sure how many yet, possibly 2 or 3, but this isn't the end of class. Okay, that was pretty lame. Let's learn. In this video, we'll discuss classes, objects, attributes, and methods, explain what the initializer method is, the concept of self, and how to access attributes, methods of an object. Then at the end, we have a little project. So what are classes? Well, they're that place that we used to go to as kids to learn, or sometimes get a really good nap in. But in programming, classes are blueprints for making objects. They define the attributes and methods of an object, and they're really good at helping us create a sort of software representation of a real-life object in the real world. An example of a class in the real world could be a blueprint for a home. It has the entire layout of how big the house will be, square footage, what rooms are in it, and all sorts of stuff like plumbing, I guess. I don't know, I've never built a house. Let's try defining a class real quick just to see what the syntax looks like in Python. Wow, this is getting kind of cluttered. Let's go ahead and make a new folder for OCD purposes, I guess. And then within the classes, we'll make a new file. Practice class. Now to define a class, we use the keyword class and then the name of our class. If you remember back in, it's been a while. I think it was the first video when I was talking about the proper syntax and name conventions. For classes, we use camel case, which is the first letter of each word is capitalized. So if we had a 2-word class, I'll just make something up. For instance, big dog, it would be like this, where the B is capitalized and the D, the first letter of each word, is capitalized. But we'll just go ahead and say car for now to keep it simple. And then open close parentheses, and then we'll do nothing inside of it for now. Just pass, and there you go. We've created our first class. Now remember, classes help us define an object. Now what is an object, you may ask? Well, an object, this may sound a little weird, but it's the instance of a class. A better way to explain it would be the class is the blueprint and the object is the actual instance of that class in memory. A real world example would be back to the houses. The class would be the blueprint from that house, and then the actual objects would be all the houses made from that one blueprint. And if you've seen, I think they're suburban homes, the suburbs homes, they all look the same. So they all have the same class. Let's go ahead and, it's called instantiate, basically create an object from the class. Here we have our car class. To create an object from it or instantiate that class, we simply give the name of our object. We'll say my car, and then the name of the class. We now have an object, my car, using the class car blueprint, if you will. So for now, our car class is doing nothing, just passing. Classes are really good at helping us define attributes and methods. So an attribute is basically just a variable, but for our class. A method is basically just a function, but for our class. Let me give you an example of each one. Before we get into it, we create a method. This is what's called the initializer, and I'll explain it once we finish making this method. So let's give some attributes for our car. A car could have mileage and fuel. We'll say fuel level. We'll set the attributes using those parameters. So we'll say mileage, and don't worry, I'll explain the initializer method and what this self is. So we have 2 attributes so far, mileage and fuel level. Now let's make some methods or functions, basically behavior of the object. What can the object do? Since we have a car class, cars can drive, so we'll make a method for driving. Drive, self, and then we'll pass in distance. And then just for simplicity, we'll just print you drove, and then whatever the distance they give us in miles, because I don't understand kilometers. So there we go. We've defined attributes, mileage and fuel level, and then we created a method or function for our class, and our method is drive. Now let's go ahead and explain what this init is, or initializer, and also this self. This initializer method is sort of special for classes, and it does two things that I can think of. Maybe it does more, but I only know two. So for the first one that it does is it specifies the parameters that are needed when you're instantiating the object. Let me show you an example. So as you see here, when we created our myCar object using our car class, we just assigned this class to the object. So now myCar is an object created from our car blueprint. But if I try running it, you see I get an error saying 2 required positional arguments are missing, and it's the mileage and the fuel level. So what this init method does, or initializer method, is it specifies the parameters that are needed when you're instantiating your object. That's one of the methods, or one of the things it does. The second thing it does is it initializes those attributes to the object itself. This is where it can get a little confusing, so hopefully I explain it good. So whenever our car class is instantiated, as we are doing here, whenever we're creating an object using our car class, this initializer method is automatically ran. You don't have to worry about commanding it to run. In Python, it's already ran, or automatically ran. So let's go ahead and give arguments for our class. We'll say the mileage starts off at 0 and the fuel level is 100. So now we've created our class, or sorry, we've created our object myCar with the car class, and we've given arguments. So whenever we run it, this initializer method will automatically get called, and you have self as the first parameter, then mileage and fuel level. Self, this is so self is quite literally the object itself. That may sound confusing, but look how we have it here. We have self.mileage. What I'm saying is the mileage of the object itself is whatever we pass in here as mileage. The same for fuel level. The fuel level of the object, or car itself, I'm setting a value of whatever we pass in as our fuel level argument. Now, whenever you are creating this, well, basically, I think possibly any method for a class, even if there's no arguments to it, you must include this self parameter. I could be wrong on that. I have to double check. So when we have attributes for our object, as we do here, we must refer or let Python know that we are referring to the object itself. The object itself has attributes, and this is how we initialize them. With this initializer, we say self dot and then our variable. I hope that wasn't confusing. Let's try running this as it is to see. There we go. See, we get nothing because all we did was create our object. Let's try accessing the attributes within it. So let's print myCar.mileage. And see, we get 0. We can do the same with the fuel level. And we see our fuel level 100 that we also passed in when we instantiated our object. If you remember before, when we were using modules, we put the name of the module, dot notation, and then the function we were trying to access. It's sort of the same with classes. Here we have the name of our object, we use the dot notation, and then we specify what inside of the object we are trying to access. It works the same with the method. So here we have our drive method. You see it has 2 parameters technically, self and distance, but we will only pass in the distance parameter or argument. Drive 100. Now you see I get this squiggly line error because Python doesn't know what the drive function is. We have to access our class or our object, myCar.drive. And now our squiggly line went away because we are accessing the drive function or method within our myCar object. Actually, that's a pretty good distance to drive, 100 miles. Let's just say 20, be more realistic. All right, let's run it. And there you go. You drove 20 miles. That's like typical Texas driving, I think. So these lines that we've written here, these two prints, we are accessing the attribute within our object. This one here, we are calling the method within our object. Now we can modify some attributes. So here, since we drove 20 miles, technically our mileage should then change. So we can then say myCar.mileage plus equals 20. And then let's go ahead and print the mileage again to see if it changed. And let's put an F string just so we know what we're printing. Your car mileage is, and then we'll give our car mileage miles. All right, let's copy paste this up here so it matches. We'll leave the fuel level for now. There we go. We first see that our car mileage is 0. Our fuel level was at 100. We then drove 20 miles, and then we updated our mileage attribute to add 20 miles. Now this is sort of the long way, I guess, of doing it. A more efficient way would be when we call our method within our object for driving, and we give the distance, we also update our mileage, and maybe our fuel level too. Let's go ahead and see how to do that. So here within our method, we'll say self.mileage plus equals the distance. And we can also say self.fuel level minus equals, and this would sort of depend on, I guess, your miles per gallon sort of fuel economy thing, but we'll just say it's always 10, no matter how far or close you drive. It's a pretty bad car, economic wise. All right, now let's go ahead and print to show our new mileage and fuel level. Okay, we've modified our drive method. Now let's delete this line, and all we're doing is calling our drive method with an argument of 20. Let's go ahead and see what happens. All right, check it out. So we started off with our car mileage at 0 miles. Our fuel level was at 100. We then called our drive method using an argument of 20, and then within our drive method we showed that we printed how many miles we drive, I don't know, whatever the past tense of drive is. Then here within our method we modified our attributes, and then we printed the new value of our attributes. Now you see here I'm calling the attribute self dot and then the name of the attribute. I'm letting Python know by using self that I'm referring to the object itself. As you see here, this was sort of a bad notation on my part. This should just be self.mileage and self.fuel level. Let's go ahead and run it again just to show you it works. See, we still get the same outcome. But whenever you're accessing attributes inside the class, as we are here, basically from this first line all the way to here, you use the self notation to inform Python that you're talking about the object itself. It can be self can be pretty confusing to use from the start, but I guess the more practice you get, the more it starts to make sense. And then you'll gain some self confidence. I don't know if I'm gonna leave that joke in there. For the project for this video, we'll create a bank account class that will simulate a bank account. You'll be able to create an account, withdraw, deposit money, and see how much money you got in the bank. Let's try it out. So just make a new file, bank.py. All right, let's begin. So we first start by creating our class. We'll call it bank account. And the first method we create is our initializer method with the arguments of self, the name of the owner, and a balance. If you remember, with functions we had optional or default arguments or values. We can use the same here. So the first argument they pass will be the name of the owner, and if they don't pass a second argument, we'll automatically set their balance at 0. If they do pass a second argument, then we'll change their balance to whatever they pass. So we'll say self.owner is the owner, and then self.balance is the balance that's passed. Now, I guess since we're getting further into Python, or our knowledge is ever expanding more and more, we should probably start using good Python syntax. So let's go ahead and create a docstring for what this method does. Okay, now let's make a deposit method and also describe what this method does. Now within this method, let's go ahead and add some conditionals. So for example, if the amount is less than 0, how would you deposit $0 or less than $0, right? If it's equal to or less than 0, we will print that the deposit amount must be greater than 0. Else, i.e., if the amount they're depositing is anything greater than 0, we'll add it to our current balance and then print the new balance that we have. Self.balance plus equals amount, and then print our new balance. Is successful 2 S's? I think so. Now let's create a withdrawal method. And it's sort of the same logic here. We can't draw or take out less than or equal to $0. So here we'll say the withdrawal amount must be greater than $0. And then we also need a scenario in case they're trying to take out, or I'm trying to take out more money than I have in the bank. So we'll say if the amount is greater than the current balance, we'll print you don't have the funds for that withdrawal, or for a withdrawal of, and then we'll give the amount, and then we'll say get your money up first. Else, i.e. in any other situation the amount is less than our balance, we will modify our attribute by the amount, and then we'll sort of do the same as we did with the deposit. Let's go ahead and copy it. We'll say withdrawal successful, and then give the balance. And we'll add one last method to check how much money we currently have in the bank, and we will just print you currently have and then our balance. Now you see here, as I mentioned earlier, self is included in this method even though there are technically no arguments passing to it. It's so the method knows, or the class knows, that the object itself is an input into our method. Let's go ahead and put our documentation, our doc string for what this is. Alright, I think we've defined our class pretty well. Let's go ahead and instantiate it, make some objects. We'll say account1, bank account, and for the owner we'll say Anthony has a starting balance of, now this is me wishful thinking or putting it out there into the universe, 10,000. One quick trick in Python, I have this integer and I can't really just look at it and say, oh, it's $10,000 by this. I'd have to count the zeros. But what you can do is just put a comma, and it's completely ignored by Python. It's just for us humans to know that it sort of acts like a comma. And I went ahead and gave myself 10 million just because it'd be nice to have. We'll make another bank account, account 2, and then we'll say Billy is starting out like me and he's just got $100 in the bank. Okay, let's try accessing my money. So we'll say account 1 dot withdraw, and let's say I'm trying to, I don't know, buy an island or something, and I need 20 million. Billy is wise, and instead of withdrawing, he's depositing money. He's depositing $200. All right, let's run these and see. Oh, look at that. I didn't even catch that. These should all have F in front of them to let Python know that they're an F string and I'm passing in variables. All right, that was my bad. Let's try again. There we go. You don't have the funds for withdrawal of 20 million. Get your money up first. And then deposit successful. New balance is 300. Let's go ahead and add the name inside each one of these confirmation messages so we know who we're talking to. There we go. Now I've gone ahead and added the owner attribute to each message that we're giving. Let's see how it looks now. There we go. If you don't have the funds for withdrawal of 20 million, get your money up first, Anthony. Deposit successful. Billy, new balance is $300. And then just to check if our other method works, let's go ahead and access account 1 and then the check balance method. And there we go. Anthony, you currently have 10 million. One can hope. Well, that's it for today's lesson. I hope you enjoyed the video and I hope you learned something. We sort of covered just the basics of classes and objects, how to create a class, how to make attributes and methods for the class, initializing the class, and the self concept. Then we instantiated an object and accessed the attributes within those objects and the methods within them. In the next video, we'll really go deep into learning more about classes with things such as encapsulation, inheritance, a new word I just learned, polymorphism, properties, possibly abstraction, and then something called Dunder magic or Dunder magic methods. Anyways, it'll be a lot. Maybe we'll do it all in one video, or maybe we'll split it up. I don't know. Either way, I'll see you in the next lesson.